Hi, how's it going? I'm Chris from 3 Beacon Marketing, and we have a client here, Ann from FirmTech. She's on today to talk through how we've been able to help them with their marketing, and we'll start from there. Ann, can you kind of share with us who you are and the brand you guys are growing right now?
Sure. We have a company that's a sexual health product. It's actually a cock ring with sensors that measures nocturnal erections, which are a leading indicator of your cardiovascular health. But it also measures sex erections, and that's also an indication of general health. And then on top of that, we have other products which help with ED, which are actually cock rings without sensors. But it turns out that for many men, particularly older men, the issue is not getting it up, it's keeping it up. And they really benefit from a well-designed constriction band that keeps the blood in the penis. And so as a result of that, it's been hard to market because any products that involve sex are automatically taboo on a lot of platforms. And so we've had to figure out how to market as a sexual health product and not a sex product. And both Aaron and Chris have been really helpful in navigating that kind of taboo world.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's been interesting helping out and jumping through those hurdles through different channels and platforms. So yeah, definitely been it's been a challenge, but we've been able to successfully do that. So
Yeah, and I
yeah,
want
go
to add
ahead.
another note, which is one of the reasons why I was interested in working with you guys, is that you've worked in this field before. And one of the clients of yours that I spoke to has a supplement company, and he was talking about how that too is difficult to navigate because of all the regulations about medicines, but that you've helped them to actually really grow their product.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, would you mind sharing a little bit more about before working with us, kind of what that struggle was like? Because I know with sexual health products, with supplements, there's regulations. Some platforms like or don't like things. Would
Yeah.
you mind sharing kind of what that was like with before you started working with us?
Yeah, it was really challenging because we didn't, a lot of this stuff that happens is kind of backstage. And so nobody tells you what you can and cannot do. And so we were trying for a long time to advertise on Meta, and we just kept getting shut down. It really wasn't for many months before we finally got a statement from Meta clarifying their sexual health product advertising rules, because you are allowed to advertise as a sexual health product, but you can't talk about pleasure, you can't talk about performance. There are lots of rules about how you can talk about sexual health products. It took a long time to figure that out, and actually even so by the time we came to you guys, we had figured out sort of what we needed to do. One of the things was create an entirely separate landing page so that all the pixels that are coming from Meta are not making it to our website where we do talk about sex and pleasure, but they're only going to a landing page that talks about our sexual health product and not our other erection rings. Again, you guys are really helpful in helping us to figure out how to create that in a way that worked.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely like I mentioned earlier. It's jumping through hoops. Like depending on what the channel and the platform wants and what they don't want, it changes from month to month, from week to week. So yeah, helping you guys get the at least the tech rings in particular on Meta has been a huge lift.
The fact that you were familiar with and experience, because the problem we were having is we were working with people who call themselves meta experts, but they also didn't understand how to work in a taboo field. As try as we were just, it was the blind leading the blind. And
Yeah.
so to actually have somebody who was familiar with those difficulties and those challenges was
Yeah, yeah,
really helpful.
absolutely. So yeah, I guess with that being said, now that we're able to advertise on Meta, Google's running now. You were telling me before we started recording a story about the influencer you're telling me about. Walk me through kind of what it's like now that you guys can advertise. What's that like? You guys are making sales. People are reaching out and finding you. What's that kind of look like for you guys now?
It's great. I mean, because the other thing that I've learned over time is that I didn't understand what top of funnel, bottom of funnel. There were a lot of marketing terms that were just mysteries to me. Like, what does that mean? Well, when you have a product like ours, which is new, and it requires a lot of education. People have to learn about the benefits of the product. Most men don't even know that they have nocturnal erections. Never mind the fact that these nocturnal erections are, an indicator of your health. And because it's only been known by specialists who are, urologists practicing and dealing with erectile dysfunction, trying to understand it. And the monitoring device that we had was something that you could only use in a lab. And, our leading competitor costs $16,000. Right. And it's a device for an office. And, our device, so we've had to educate. And a lot of that process has been, now I understand that the top of the funnel is like where you bring them in and you start to educate them so that they then make their way down the funnel to actually make a purchase. And so, a lot of the Facebook traffic, has not, who knows how long before people actually make a decision to buy. I know for me, if I'm researching a product, I can often be hit with an ad a dozen times before I think, what, maybe I'll get this. Because, it looks like it'll really be beneficial to me. But when I first see it, I'm not sure what it is and how it works and whether it has actually is doing what it claims to be doing. And, but with repeated exposure and with, with different angles of attack, whether it's like, okay, here's a bunch of reviews that other people have written about the product, and I go, oh, okay, well, they got benefit out of it. Maybe I will too. And so I think what I've appreciated with you, Chris, is that you've, with the email campaigns, you have a strategy already in place that you can apply to our product. It's not like you're inventing something. You have a formula for 8 emails in a welcome series that are each one is addressing a different angle of a person's reluctance to buy, and and before that we had a welcome series that that I had worked on with people, but I didn't really I didn't have a strategy. And it was just, I was, again, just blindly reaching out. And with your emails, I feel like that strategy is effective.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. So I guess with the way Aaron is running ads for us now, and we're doing email with the flows and things, how do you see, I guess going back to that funnel analogy, how do you see those things addressing each of the funnel pieces? Because I know that's important. A lot of brands will either go after top of funnel or they'll go after bottom of funnel, but they don't do both or they don't have the full picture. So I was wondering if from your perspective, how do you see paid and email right now addressing that funnel?
Well, again, the other thing that we've started doing, really right before we started working with you, because again, this has been an education process for our team, but we've figured out that we really needed to be able to track every purchase. And we have the capacity to do that because of Shopify, the other products that are aligned with them, like Klaviyo, where we've set it up so that we have UTMs on every avenue that we can think of, so that if somebody comes to us through Meta, we know. That's been really useful to actually have.
So yeah, I guess with that being said, now that we're a few months in, been working together, what's kind of the process like working with us? Because I know working with a separate team that comes in and says, hey, we have a system to use. What's that time commitment been like? What's communication been like? Can you kind of talk me through that? Yeah,
I mean, one of the reasons that I really like working with you guys is that we communicate daily. We talk, we have a communication on Slack. I can share things with you, you can share things with me. And I really appreciate that. You know, some marketing guy was like, well, don't you want to bring all that in-house? And it was like, I thought, well, wait a minute. You guys feel like you're in-house. I don't feel like I've hired an agency and that I'm working with, you know, because we have worked with agencies, and you talk to one guy and you end up having the interview with another guy, and then you're assigned somebody else. And the person that you're assigned is like, you know, young and not as experienced as the people, you know, like it's kind of it feels like a kind of a bait and switch. It's like, here, we're going to give you this service, and then you end up with something, and with a person that you don't really trust, you know, in a way that maybe you were led to trust the person who was presenting the brand or the agency. And and with you guys, I felt like you were presenting yourselves, and I ended up working with you.
Yep.
And, you know, and I really appreciate the fact that we have weekly meetings where we go over the statistics of, you know, that we can gather. And, but more than that, I just really appreciate our Slack communications that, you know, and the fact that, you know, on a Sunday afternoon, you know, or, you know, I'm getting a message from Aaron, and it's like, you know, hey, stop this, you know, and go have fun. You know, it's like, and that
go enjoy the weekend.
really. But you know, hey, there I'm working too. You know, and we work 7 days a week, and you know, not 8 hours a day necessarily, but you know, we are, you know, we're working our business every day.
Yep.
And it needs that. I think if you've got a startup, you don't, you know, again, it's not like you're working 8 hours a day all the time, but you do need to be available and and responsive. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are like that, and that I'm not waiting. And our prior experience was much more. It was just really difficult to get an immediate response when you wanted.
Yeah, and when you're trying to make decisions for the brand and the business, waiting 3 days could mean the difference between a decision getting made or not getting made, or an opportunity being taken advantage of or not.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that. Aaron and I work really hard to be available to you guys, because we get it. Like startups and trying to grow a brand, we're growing our own business too. And yeah, we work 7 days a week. It's not 8 hours a day, but we are working on the business in some capacity. So yeah, definitely get that.
Yeah.
So cool. Awesome. So yeah, I guess with all that being said, with what we've been able to help with paid and email, and just that relationship we've been building over the last couple months, where do you guys see us helping you over the next 6 to 12 months? Like, what does that look like? Are there things you're excited about? Are there opportunities that you weren't able to go after before that you're excited about now? I know you and Elliot do travel. You guys do conferences. You do events to share about your brand and the technology you guys have. So I'm just wondering if maybe you could share a little bit about that in the next 6 to 12 months. What does that look like for you guys?
You know, I guess for me, I see it as more of the same. You know, that the niche in our business that you guys occupy is really important, and that, you know, we will, you know, continue to learn and develop based on that progress. You know, that we will progress. I mean, that we will figure stuff out with Facebook, and we'll spend more money on ads once, you know, when we get it, you know, when we refine, and that we will continue to refine and perfect our strategy, so that right now we're, you know, again, we're just starting, but I think we'll find that there's particular populations that really respond to our product, and we'll target them more. And as far, that's how I feel with, and you know, perhaps expand into other domains. Right now we're just doing Google and Meta, and we might find that, you know, it would be easy to add on other channels.
Yep.
And that using what we've gained from Meta and Google, we can you know, it would be worth spending money on I don't know, maybe, you know, Bing or TikTok. I'm not even really sure, you know, what the other opportunities are.
Yeah.
You know, and then as far as the emails go, I mean, I think, you know, we're working on getting all of our flows in order, and there, you know, I think, you know, there are, that's not an infinite number of flows. I mean, there are series, and that once we get those flows in order, and again, I think, there will always be stuff that, just like, with our website, you think, okay, you've got a website, but in fact, no, our website developer is always being tasked with new things, a page here, a new product there, it's so that there are, there's a constant flow of business to him.
Yep.
And I think with you that, again, there could be, we really need an email about this series or whatever. And, at the moment I'm doing the bulk of the campaign work, but perhaps some of that could be passed off.
Yeah.
Once we have the flows in order. And particularly I'm actually, for the first time really working on a calendar of emails, because I need to do that, and I actually have the time, and and I'm realizing that there are repetitive emails that could go out that are review emails, and it's an opportunity to go through all our reviews, of which we have a couple hundred, and find the ones that are clever or intriguing in some way or another, and and we also, Elliot does a lot of podcasts. And we're now figuring out that it's worth it to put the podcasts in an email, because some people like to listen to podcasts.
They do.
I personally don't, so it's not like I would ever click on a podcast link in an email. But I do know that other people have responded to me by saying, "Oh, I listened to the podcast and I learned this, and in fact, I want to talk to Elliot about that." And so I'm sure if you do broadcast emails, that you probably have other ideas that I haven't thought of, and that could be something that are more routine. I mean, I personally, I'm not a big fan of promotional emails, but I sure get a lot, and I know some companies I get one a day, that I never ever click on, but every now and again that headline will catch me, and I'll think, oh, White Flower Farm, hollyhocks, ooh, I like hollyhocks.
Yeah.
So
no, that's great. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity and potential there. I think too, something you mentioned is how flexible it is for us to step in and start working on things and maybe step out if it's not needed. Because I know we initially started with email and then eventually got to Meta, so Aaron came in later. But the flexibility of being able to add those things where needed is definitely a plus. It's not all or nothing with us. Like we try to step in beside you guys and build with you, and not try to build against you. So
yeah, and I appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah. Just two more questions for you. This is one of my favorites. I always like asking because I always like seeing kind of the answer. No pressure. But what is one thing initially to start with? If there's more, great. But what's one thing that surprised you after starting to work with us? Maybe you're a couple of weeks or a couple of months in. What's something that surprised you about us?
I think the main thing is that is how responsive you were.
Yeah.
That was really the kind of thing that that our quote in-house team has, where we communicate all the time, and but I hadn't had that experience with marketing agencies, with any of them. We had we had calls, but they weren't regular. They weren't really respected. It was like, oh, we're going to talk on Friday. Well, oh, sorry, it didn't work out. It's like, no, that's something that I really appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we definitely, like I mentioned, we definitely try to make that. Yeah. You're growing a brand, and we want that's important, and we want that to have a regular cadence in the calendar, because it needs that attention. It definitely needs that attention. So
yeah,
cool. And then I guess the last question here to wrap things up. I guess if there's anybody that's considering working with us, with myself and Aaron at 3BM, what's one or two things maybe you'd tell them if they're on the fence about it, like if they're considering it? Is there anything you would give them advice-wise now that you've worked with us, or any kind of insights into working with us for the last couple of months?
Well, I think I would repeat what the guy that I spoke with, who spoke about you, said, which is that it takes time. It's marketing. It just takes time, and it takes time to understand who the market is and how to reach them, and that you're not gonna. You have to be patient, and let that learning process take place. That marketing world is so complex and so vast, and you have to be patient. And because one of the things he said is that it's easy to keep switching marketing companies.
Yeah.
And we had done that. It's like we get hit up by marketing companies every day.
Oh,
I
yeah.
get an email from somebody saying, "Hey, I think we can do better than what you have, and here's how, and here's why." And so it's easy to be seduced by that and think, "Oh, well, maybe, and hey, you hit us up and it worked." I mean, I think, I think we got a cold email from you too, but and we, for a long time we were kind of exploring every person that reached out to us, and I no longer feel the need to do that. I'm satisfied with what we have, and I feel like you guys really know the brand, and are doing your best, and it's hard, especially I think something like Google Ads. It's really hard. It's really competitive. It's a big market, and it's a big world, and But anyway, so I guess that's.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? Do you want to share again where people can find your guys' products? Anything like that before we wrap up?
Yeah, no, you can. Our products are for sale at myfirmtech.com, and so have a look. If you're a man, an older man, you really might find benefit from what we have to offer.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Ann.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Chris.